Okay. Hello, I guess. Let's see if anyone is here already. Ah, good. 5 people. Yeah. So, since last time, I've done a couple of modifications. Um, for example, I now have this slight rounded corner to my camera. I also had some fun in OBS with some overlays. So now I can have a NIM crown on, and of course everyone's. Oh wait, you can't see that. I can have a NIM crown on. I also brought everyone's favorite badger with me. I know how much you like this guy. But let's put him away in case there are any kids watching. I was annoyed by the whole like black area up here, showing notifications and me having to sort of hide it away with my little like small terminal placed up here. And I was thinking about like how can I do this in a better way, and I realized that all this time we've been writing a program that is meant to put stuff on screen. So I wrote a small little program, and if I now just write something in the chat, we can now see that these pop up as notifications. And and this goes away after 10 seconds, but if anyone writes anything else, they will show up to 5 of them at the same time. And you can see here, sort of, I just made it echo out what it's doing. So it's calling Notificatcher, and it's calling it with a little like config file, which just is like the colors and stuff. And then it creates these texts for every person who talks, and it adds them to this format here. So you can just have a quick look at this code. I have an unused import. Don't need that. So basically, what this does, it reads my hex chat log file for the Twitch channel. So it reads that with tail. So I just run tail in the background, open the output stream, so I can read one line of input at a time. We split that and extract some information about it, so the message that we got, and like find the username from the smaller than bracket. And if we have a username, we sort of extract the timestamp and the username. We're not using the timestamp for anything, which is why NimLSB is complaining over here. And yeah, so we just add them to a small sequence, and if we have more than 5 messages, that was 3 while I was testing, we delete it. And we also, though I mentioned this in an earlier stream, that Notifishower doesn't support any kind of like new line wrapping or overflow or stuff like that. It will just like throw an error if it can't fit that much text on a line. So what we're actually doing here is that in the nim code we're doing, like in my little script here, we're doing the word wrapping, and we're so we're word wrapping, but that returns a string. So I just chose the new line character to be something that won't appear in a string, and then we split so I can get it in a sequence. And then for every line we just add something to our format. And then we just add to our format this new string and run, of course, Notifishower. Before we carry on though, and before I start this for the stream, I'm just gonna copy Notifishower, the binary here, because we're gonna be making modifications to Notifishower. So just in case we do something dumb that will make notifications not show up, I want this to still work. And of course this config file is just like colors and action, so I can click it if it gets in the way. Remember, global action is just whatever happens when I click on something that's not a button, so just like the background. Yeah, just set some parameters here. The timeout and the width. This only displays on one of my monitors, so it only displays on this monitor. That was just because I have one standing monitor, and I have these monitors which are the same size, and I wanted this one to display sort of as wide as I could over to like where the camera is, but that wouldn't work on my standing monitor because it's too narrow. So I'm only displaying this on this monitor, and it has the normal X position, so they appear sort of here, but they end sort of here somewhere. So to me they look kind of skewed, but because I have the camera in the corner there, they will look sort of centered in the white space of the camera. So that should now be working. So if I just type something more in the chat, welcome to the stream, it shows up as a nice little notification there. So we'll just keep that running. Yeah, so you might remember last time we had a bug here with building on 1.4.0, but now we can build on this version. This was caused by a bug in docopt, or rather my modification of docopt, which he is looking at currently, but haven't yet merged into master. So if you go to GitHub, docopt here. Let's go to this one. So the issue here was that in 1.4.0, or somewhere between 1.2.6 and 1.4.0, we have this change where yeah, so I need to add this part. Can you read any of this? Let's see, there we go. So basically what was happening was that they changed the way that get impl. So I use in the dispatch proc, which is what we're seeing in here. I mentioned this briefly in another stream. Dispatch proc basically looks at. Oh wait, I should also do this. So dispatch proc here looks at, it gets the implementation or the signature of this procedure. So it sees that this is ID and reason of UN32, and then it will try to look at the available arguments in here. So we'll look at the available arguments, and it will try to look for an argument called ID and an argument called reason, convert those to an unsigned integer, and then call this function or procedure. But what was going on here was that if you bring up the definition of this, so what was going on here was that it was getting the implementation here, up here. So it was getting the implementation, but getImpl was changed in them to now give you symbols instead of identifiers. So when I then sort of pull out these, not this one exactly, but when I then pull out the arguments here in order to add them to a variable, they are already symbols, which means they are already parameters, so I can't use them as variables, and that's the error it was complaining about. So the fix was basically just this dsym, which just goes through the entire tree, checks if anything is symbol. If it is a symbol, we just make a new ident node that just like takes this symbol and stringifies it, and just recurses down the tree. So if you remove this, and now I'm just editing my installed version of dockopt, but if I remove this, we will get this error again that says error cannot use symbol of kind param as a var, which basically just means that, and you can see here on line 214. So line 214 is here, so it's complaining that, oh, I can't use ID and reason as variables in what the dispatch module creates. But if we do dsym, then we are able to. So if we now build, it builds fine. And if we expand macros, dispatch proc, was that? No. Yeah, this dispatch proc. But we can't do it like this. So if we now build this, expand, isn't that what it's called? Oh, expand macro singular. There we go. So yeah, we can see that what it does here is that it pulls them out here as variables. ID action key. So it pulls out these parameters from the definition of these, or the implementation of these, as variables. And dockopt didn't like that, or the new nym didn't like that. But that has been fixed. So Notifishower now builds. We also had an issue where when running, so if we run Notifishower, and we were playing around with actions. So if we do this and go to the notifications, what was that called? So someone had a website that we were trying out. Yeah, this one. So this one, which will show a notification, and this had actions in it, so we wanted to use that ourselves. If we kill Dunst, so we wanted to use that to test how we handle actions. but every time we got one of these, Notifishower would crash. But as you can see, I've also fixed this bug, and now it just lists out the actions because that's the pattern I gave it. The problem here turned out to actually be, that was convenient, to be in this loop function. So main loop here, this watches thing used to be a sequence, but main loop here was created in a create statement. So it would create the object main loop, and then it would pass that into it would pass this into this dbus function, and we would get that in these functions. We would get this pointer, this loop pointer here, which we could then cast back to a main loop and access the stuff within it. The problem is just that when you, so this is pretty much the same as a malloc or a calloc, I guess, since it clears the memory. It sets all the memory to 0. So basically what was going on here was that we were creating this main loop thing with a reference to a sequence within it. So sequences in them are reference counted. And the problem was that when the garbage collector kicked in, it couldn't find this reference because main loop isn't main loop isn't in sort of a domain that the garbage collector knows about. So what was going on was that this sequence was freed and overwritten with something else, and that messed up our thing. And the reason it only happened, and this is quite interesting, the reason it only happened with the notifications from this Firefox testing thing is that, yeah, so now this is off, so this will, because of free desktop things, this will now start Dunst again. You see this icon over here, this little image. That is a custom image. And if we look at, I think it's hints icon or something like that. We need to kill Dunst first. Hints icon. I think that's what it's called. Nope, apparently not. Let's just look up the free desktop notification spec. To get and an icon. Images are this should be done with caution, shouldn't be bigger than blah blah blah. Image can be defined by image path or image data in a hint. So if we look at image data, so since he's sending a small picture of himself, what we're actually getting here is a massive, we're basically getting the image as binary data as in the hint. And this was obviously enough to trigger the garbage collector when it was sort of trying to handle all of this data. So it's quite a lot of it, as you can see. I'm now just holding page up in my terminal, so there's quite a lot. And as we can see here, it's a sequence of numbers. Starts with a couple of int32s. I'm guessing these are the size. I'm guessing this might be total number of pixels. Start my calculator here. Nope, that is not the total. So yeah, that's some value of some kind. And then all of this is just the so as you can see, all of these are DT bytes, so they're meant to be bytes. This is just all the image data, just as a binary. I'm guessing in sort of an RGB format. There's a boolean here. There's another int32, 2 more of those, and then this DT array of all of these DT bytes. If we actually look at something that what's it called, something monitor, dbus monitor, that's the one. So if you use this and show this will show up because dbus monitor is just listening. Yeah, here we can see it in a sort of maybe more what you would expect. So these, as you can see, they appear to be, oops, yeah, just kill this program. As you can see, these values appear to be sort of RGB alpha, I'm guessing. Let's see, just get to the top here. That's our output. Yeah, so it has 160, 160, 640, a boolean true, 8 and 4, and then a bunch of data. So that is one thing that I was actually thinking of implementing for Notifishower, a way for it to put, when you get this image data thing, to put the image in a folder and then give you just the path to that folder instead, or the path to that file, so you can open that file if you like. Yeah, so you can also get an image path, and I'm guessing that is more of a like, here is my application icon kind of notification. So if this had shown like the Firefox logo, or the logo like this this thing, that would have probably been a file path instead of actual binary data in the notification. But yeah, so that's one thing I might do today, might do sometime else, reading this and putting it in an icon file. But yeah, so fixing that was basically just, it wasn't trivial, but basically, yeah, this was a matter of changing this main loop object to not have any kind of garbage collected memory in it. So now you can see it holds a pointer, it holds an integer, and it holds a statically sized array of pointers. So nothing in here is garbage collected, and nothing in here should be sort of interacted with by the garbage collector. This max watches thing was actually in this dbus thing to begin with, so I didn't add this. It was set to 128. I don't really know dbus well enough to know if that's a good number, bad number, if it's why he has chosen that number. But I just decided to keep it. This could be re-implemented with the resizing the array manually, or using a linked list, something like that. But in this case, this works fine. So I've made a pull request for that, which I don't think he has merged yet. So if you want to build Notifishower for now, you probably want to use mine. Whoops, this is called nimdbus, isn't it? Yeah, this one. So if you want to build this, you will need to pull my nim dbus, the loop fix branch of that, and you will need to pull my my fork of the docopt thing to get this dispatch. That I think is actually in the nimble file. Yeah. So I can actually do this for dbus as well. It's called nim dbus for me as well, and a loop fix. So that means that when you do nimble build, it will actually build. Yeah, now it's actually installing it because it didn't understand that was the one that we had. But yeah, if you want to run build this, you need to build that. Oops. So kill Dunst. There we go. So yeah, that was pretty much what I've done since last time. I haven't really implemented anything else new, I don't think. I'm just looking at what I was saying earlier that I was going to do, just in case, just so I don't miss anything. Yeah. Showing my fix for the dbus issue and the docopt issue. Implementing 9 patches for hovers, handling of global keyboard shortcuts for Notifishower, and hopefully handling of icons for Notificatcher. Yeah, so icons, that was what I was talking about. Storing this in a meaningful way, so that you can use that. But let us have a look here at Notifishower. So for those of you who didn't catch the last stream, we implemented 9 patches as backgrounds. So if we just scroll past all my debugging of the IRC thing, we can now see that we can do this kind of stuff. And I should increase my terminal size here as well. There we go. So you can see here that we can now run Notifishower, and we can specify --icon.9 patch to have a 9 patch image as the background for something. And we set that to tile instead of stretch. And we give the title an action and the title a hover color. So now we can see that this icon has a 9 patch border, which is a kind of, it's a bit wonky because I didn't properly specify the limits for this in order to tile properly. And yeah, this hovers just fine. But if we set this on, we can set this 9 patch on the text instead. Oops, it's not called text, it's called title. There. Yeah, now you can see we didn't specify this tiling. We specified tiling on icon and not on text. So here you can see it's actually stretching it instead of tiling it. And of course it goes away when we hover because of the fixes that we implemented last time. That basically when you hover over something, you replace the background instead of draw on top of it, because we can have stuff with transparency. But this is only now for the background, and we also want to have this for this hover, which is currently only a color. So that is what we're gonna start with today. So let me just go back to the correct IRC channel here. You guys are quiet today. There's only 6 of you. I guess I was kind of in the middle of dinner, but for me it's already 7:30, and this is if I'm going to be streaming for 2-3 hours as I have previously, then it would get pretty late if I started later than this. Yeah, so we need to create the option for this. I haven't added the 9 patches stuff to here yet. So we can have, yes, I am in Norway. Why is yes, way north. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I'm not gonna open Google Maps because I have stuff stored in Google Maps. Don't we have some other map here? Yeah, we were talking about time. Oh, right. Live, not live. Makes sense. Yeah. So I live here. In the middle of nowhere. Yep. That's where I live. Way north of anything. Yeah. So back to not this, but this. Yeah, so last time we implemented background, which could be a color or a 9 patch. And now we're going to do the same thing for this hover regions, these hover regions. Create a 9 patch and a 9 patch tile. Yeah, no, that's not gonna be an issue, I hope. So these are only the options, and as you can see, this is a string. But in our main code here, did I already open this? Oh, it's already, no. Or do I have this? Yeah. There. So for those of you who remember, in this we create a hover section which uses a color and is actually tied to an element and an action. But we of course need to be loading a 9 patch image. So the way I did this for backgrounds was that I have this background patches, which is a table from strings to 9 patches, where the strings are the element names. So we're going to be doing something similar for hovers. So yeah, let's remove that. We can do this. Copy those over to the hover, and where we define the hover region. So I'm still a bit conflicted on what to call these, and this is why I started with background. Because as it is now, you can specify the background color of something. So if I remove this part, so we can specify the background of something by doing title dot background and giving a color. That's how we specify the background. And if we want to specify the 9-patch image background, we just do title.9patch. And this matches what we have for the background, which have sort of been the idea of this all along, because we have this background parameter without an ID, that is the background of the whole program, and we have this 9-patch without an ID, that is the 9-patch background of the whole program. But now we also have just title, like so NID dot 9patch to set the background 9patch image, and we have dot tile on an ID to set the 9patch tiling mode for a background. So that matches. Well, I guess it only matches that and this, which is kind of weird because an element with the name 9patch. I'm kind of running out of ways to name things here. But that is definitely not good, so we need to change that. Because now we have a collision. 9patch and tile. Where is the other? Oh, right. That was the help message, but that is not what we're actually parsing. Yeah. So this parameter is just called tile. So if I want to, so we have a 9-patch background here. If I want to tile that instead of stretching it, I can do -- tile is true. But with this particular image, you can't really tell. So I kind of wanted to avoid the double dot thing. But I think what we will have to do is to do something like title.hover.9patch and an image, which isn't great, but we'll implement that for now. Call this rule hover 9patch dot hover dot 9patch. This is gonna require an identifier. So an identifier dot, and this can be part of this pattern. And this is not going to be a color. That is going to be, so it's going to be a path, which we've just been calling strings so far. And we can't set these on the background because the background can't be hovered. I just realized I switched. I said can't and can't in two different sentences. Oh yeah, so that is still a hover, and this is a 9patch, and that's this 2, and we need hover 9patch, or let's just call it hover tile, and call this hover.tile, and this is gonna be tile. And of course we need to add these to our pattern here. Now it's important that these come in our pattern after the normal hover rule, because otherwise it would match the hover rule. It will run the code for the hover match, and then it would backtrack. Well, actually it wouldn't, because the hover rule specifies a space and a color, so they wouldn't match. But that's something to keep in mind if you're using npeg, is that if as soon as a rule matches, it runs whatever is in the match. So if you match something as part of another rule and then backtrack, you might have side effects from the branch it parsed down but then backtracked from. So it's just a small thing to keep in mind. Hover 9 patch and hover tile. So now we should be able, oops, misspelled 9 patch there. So, or was there something else wrong? No, that's what they are called. And that is called, oh, that's called 9 patch tile. Right. Again, for those not all that familiar with Nim, you saw me erasing the small t there, but this could have been a small t because Nim is case insensitive. And this is a boolean. So yeah, equal equals just returns a boolean. So if this is equal to true, then this returns true, and that is sort of what we want to store in here. So we actually don't need to say false. We can just say like whatever else than false, because now we're currently just matching to strings. But let's change that. So we copy that rule from there. That is the only other boolean, which is why it hadn't gotten its own rule yet. But now that we have more than one, we're going to do this. So basically a boolean is either the string literal true or the string literal false. Boolean. So yeah, either the literal true or the literal false, which means that here, if this doesn't match true, then it has to be false, because that's the only way that this rule would match, because we specify that we want a boolean. Yeah, hosting me. I figured out what that was. So he, Juan Carlos, hosted me last time as well, and I was confused. I didn't know what that was. Some Twitch feature where you can play someone else's content on your channel to promote them, or something like that. Hey. So yeah, that's how those notifications work. Apparently, Twitch proprietary emoticons don't come through, but they don't come through on IRC either. If you're on IRC, you just see haha ball in the chat, but on Twitch that looks like some kind of disco ball thing with a smiley face on it. But yeah, so thanks for hosting me. It's always fun. Always fun to get more views. So yeah, we have now this hover, which now have 9 patch and a 9 patch tile, and we are able to specify those over the command line. And now we need to load those as 9 patch images into our program, and we need to draw them. So we have this, the background patches. We're just gonna copy this and we're gonna create a hover patches table. And we're basically just gonna copy this loop and do basically the same thing. So what we were looping over there was the backgrounds table, and now we wanna. You guys are having fun. Oh yeah, so those are those are more icons, emoticons of some sort. What even is that? Looks like a dude looking to the right. So yeah, as you can see, the notifications now show up on the top of the screen. Right. You like my chat messages? Well, thanks. What we're doing is actually programming the program that shows those, which are meant to show notifications, but in this case I've set it up to show my Twitch chat instead. I am using normal Vim, not NVim. I have been meaning to check out NVim, but I haven't because Vim serves me just fine. I mean, it's not. It works. It works. I mean, I use Nim daily for work. Legacy Vim. It's not legacy. It's. When was this? What, this was built in September. This version was installed in October. It's a pretty recent version of Nim. Oh yeah, I'm using Arch as well. Yeah, I use Arch, by the way. Of course I use Arch. What else would I be using? Oops. Want to rename this to hover. Trailing characters. What? Oh, I was doing that wrong. Yeah, that doesn't always work. Just gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way. Hover, and this is now also hover and hover and hover. Yeah. So basically what we're doing here, since we copied the code, or since we copied the names for the background object, the code here is going to be exactly the same. We loop over the hoverables and load in the 9 patches. The way 9 patches work is that it sets the loaded.image to whatever image you specified when they are successful in loading. So this was successful if this happens. In that case, we also load the tile thing, and we set not our background patches but our hover patches, and just store that in this hover patches table. Now we can look at the drawing code. So if our hover section exists, right. So let's not start with that. Let's start with this part. OpenSUSE. I did use OpenSUSE at work. and that was the tumbleweed version, and I had so many problems with it. That was mostly because of everyone else running normal OpenSUSE, and my packages just never matched anyone else at work. I have no idea. Like, it was a company laptop. I have no idea why they installed Tumbleweed for me and not for anyone else. But that was just a massive pain in the ass. And I could never get used to the package manager. Like, I don't do that many package management tasks, and just being used to opt and yeah, I think they were trying it out. I think they were just sort of like figuring out thing. But yeah, the OpenSUSE package manager, I can never get used to that one. I've used apps in the past on Ubuntu, and I've used Pacman, and both of those work just fine. So, and I know sort of the commands, like you saw, for example, this QI, query information about a package. Just the kind of stuff that you pick up. And switching to a new distro, those are always hard to remember. Line 184, I had or instead of for. Yeah, I've heard that LSP should work better in NVIM. Maybe I should check it out. Anyways, yeah, so if it has a background patch, it's drawing this background patch thing. Oh, it has built-in LSP. That is nice. So wait, does that mean that it doesn't freeze my editor when LSP is doing stuff when I save a file? Because as you noticed, I put Vim in the background and then foreground it to go back and forth on to the terminal, and running this, like, whenever I save it, it will do the Vim LSP thing, and if I sleep it quickly, you can see it didn't have time to regain control, so it sort of shows the text, and that messes up my buffer, my terminal buffer, and I have to wait for a little while to get back in, which isn't great. Yeah. So this is the drawing of the hover, or the background. We're gonna copy this, which is the part that does drawing of the 9 patches. Indent that for the hover, and we're gonna say if hover patches has key. So you will notice that sort of hover, like the 9 patch stuff, has precedence over background. So you can't set like a background color and a 9 patch image. That is just because I have some defaults. Like, if you have default set, I kind of want stuff to overwrite instead of compound. And I figured this was a okay way of doing it. I could also in options here, sort of when you set a 9 patch, then reset the background color. I guess that would actually be better, because then you can override a default 9 patch in a file in a later config. I might redo that. This should actually be pretty much the same, but this X and Y needs to be the X and Y of our hover section, minus, of course, our up X. This needs to be the same. The y for hover section minus up y. And the reason why we have to subtract up y here and not within here is again that here we start off with minus x and minus y. And again, the reason why we have to do that minusing thing in the first place is because imlib. That's just how imlib works. So now this should work, but we will have the same issue that we had earlier. Oh, that's what you meant with the for or thing. I don't think that was like that earlier. Yeah, this is just the same bug with NimLSP, where it doesn't pick up file changes. Don't have anything called element. Because element is not here. And this is of course the window hover section dot element. Doesn't have a name. So the window hover section stores which element we are currently hovering. There we go. You also apparently don't have a width and a height here. That is true. So this needs to be the window.hover section.width. And the window.hover section.height. So I explained this last time, but I'm gonna explain it again. So the way 9 patches for backgrounds work right now is that you see it sort of draws, it's bigger than the space allocated for the text. So this blue region now is the space that is allocated for the text by the layouting algorithm. But as you can see, the hover section is way bigger than that because it has padding stuff. And the reason I did it this way was that it wouldn't mess with the layouting algorithm. So if you want to actually take these spaces into account, you need to do that in the layouting format by adding your own custom widths and heights, or your own custom paddings in order to do that, because otherwise the layouting algorithm would be even harder, and you would have some like the weird scenarios like this has a background and a hover of different sizes. What will I do? Will I change the layout in real time? Or yeah. So this is just a way simpler implementation. But now we should be able to do title dot hover dot 9 patch. And now when we hover over this, hey, it will draw a 9 patch image. Great. So that is the outline.png, I believe. Yes. We don't really have any others. We have this test, but that is pretty big. That is one I was using for just testing, for testing this. So I just wanted something else than the big balloon, like the big speech bubble thing. But yeah, so that's hover implemented, 9 patches for hover. So now you can have like buttons, and when you hover them, you can see is sort of like, this is a clickable button. I'm not gonna implement the whole like you have clicked me like halfway thing that you get. See if I can find anything with that. Yeah, this thing. So here you can see, let's zoom in a bit. Here you can see when I hover, I I get sort of a background shade thing, and when I click, it shows like a depressed button, even though I haven't let go yet. If I actually click it, of course that's gonna bring me there. I'm not gonna implement that. It's a feature that I've never really needed myself. And it would just be a lot of extra work and a lot of extra flags to parse and stuff. Tish was right. Yeah, I don't think that's why the rename failed, because I don't think I had that in the rename. Yeah, change log. Yeah. I mean, Yoast was fine, but the whole like a terminal interface, like the CLI thing, just not for me. I like my tools with switches instead of menus. Right. So that is that done. Next up. Oh wait, we still have one thing to go. How can I show this? So last time we ran into this, and I actually had to debug a while before I could figure out why it didn't show. But you can see here, so we need to add these updates to mlib in order to write our, in order to render parts of our screen. So when I remove something, I need to run this update so that mlib knows that I want to update that part of the image. And currently it does it for the background patches. So as I've mentioned, you can have a larger 9 patch than background. So we need to sort of tell mlib to redraw the entirety of the 9 patch, not only the hover. So I think I'm gonna always do the hover section. So the hover section is what I have been hovering, so which would be where I draw the background color and the hover color. So I'm just gonna always add that as an update, and I'm gonna add the hover patches and hover patches, and it's gonna run this for that. So we're not gonna really see a difference here, but this means that we won't have weird artifacts and stuff, which is good, because we don't want drawing artifacts. Yeah, that is just the normal complaint from the Nimble LSP plugin, which happens when I update the type in this file and go back to this file doesn't reload the other file for some stupid reason. So it shows those as errors, as it can't find those fields. So yeah, now we want to do global shortcuts. So currently we have actions that we can trigger by clicking on stuff, but who has time to click on stuff nowadays? we want to be able to do shortcuts. So when a notification pop up, I want to be able to hit a shortcut on my keyboard, and that should perform an action if I have one assigned to a shortcut key. So for this, we will need X global shortcut, and not Mac OS X, but X11. Here we go. So I've already looked into this, and this guy just asks why his code doesn't work, but it turns out that it does work, and he has numlock on. So the way that keyboard shortcuts in X11 works is that it's not the minimal set, they have to match exactly. So if you have Control Alt Delete set to something, then Control Alt Delete with numlock enabled won't work as the same shortcut because you have pressed the numlock modifier as well. It might not be what you expect, but as they say here, like you have two options. You can call grab key multiple times, one for each explicit combination, or you can call it with any modifier and then use the keyboard state to check which modifiers are set as you expect. And these are the mask. You have shift mask, lock mask, which is numlock, control. This is something like one of these are alt, one of these, this one is the Windows key or meta or super. I'm guessing one of them might be caps lock and one of them might be scroll lock. Not entirely sure. But at least one of these are alt. And of course any modifier. Oh, I'm dumb. It says here. Yeah. Oh, so lock is caps lock. And this is numlock and this is scroll lock. Yeah. And 4 is Windows, as I said. And apparently no one knows what 5 is. I guess for some esoteric keyboards with an extra mask, maybe some of those Japanese keyboards with split space and all of that weirdness. Or maybe it just exists so that you can create key bindings that you can type on your keyboard, but that you can send from another program. Sort of like to make scripting your own keyboard shortcuts easier or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, so this is how you do global keyboard shortcuts in X. So we need to grab modifiers, and that is a mask of the modifiers we need for our shortcut. We need to get the key code. So this does key sim to key code, where key sim is the symbol that is printed. So in X, a symbol is what is printed on your physical key. My key is my keyboard is a Dvorak layout. So D is a keyboard symbol. The keyboard code is the number that is actually sent over the X protocol when I click on that key. So this keyboard, as I said, is Dvorak, but the key that is in the same position will have the same key code, even though I've swapped all the keys around and mapped them to something else. So they have a different key code, but the same key sim. So we need to ensure that works fine. The window we want to grab from is of course the root window, because we want these to be global shortcuts. And these are just sort of ways to do it properly. Then we need to grab the key. We have already done this in our program because we already maybe we don't handle key presses, so we might have to do this again. Add this mask, and to our event loop we need to add a key press, and in his case he ungrabs the key as well. So I guess we might want to do that on program exit, but I don't think we have to. Yeah. So basically we want to be able on our command line, of course, to be able to do something like title.shortcut, and we want to be able to write something like this, like with actual letters. So we need a way to convert this into modifiers and this thing into a keyboard symbol. So do we want to do that in here? I guess we could. That means that a shortcut is an object, and this object needs to take a what are these defined as in the nim wrapper, you think? Probably just an unsigned int, unless the guy who wrote the wrapper has actually given them a their own type. Let's have a look. And that was on line 153. So these are just constants. They are just numbers. Which means that these should be integers, I guess. So we need our mask to be integer. Hello. I'm guessing that was supposed to be a wave. Our mask is an int and our key is an int. Yeah. So as you notice, there's only grab key only takes one key code, so you can't actually have like control an X and Y at the same time. You can only have one, for better or worse. And we need a way to get this. So X is one of those things. Like the name is just so nondescript, and I know like it comes from I think it's an operating system called Z or something. No, the operating system was called Y, and this was X, and that was better in like the same way that that C++ is one better than C kind of thing, and that I3 is named after a window manager called II, called after a window manager called I, or something stupid like that. But it's so hard to Google for just like the letter X. But yeah. Convert ASCII character to X11 key code. For that, we can use xstring to keysim, and then keysim to keycode. Perfect. Okay. That means we don't have to implement all of that logic ourselves, which is very nice. In here we now of course also a bit inconveniently need to, that was not meant to be a we now of course also need to import this to get the mask stuff. We also need to figure out where this so we need to import some X stuff here. We need to import whatever this lives in. It's xlib. Actually, I think we're gonna do this on a new line. You know what, let's just import all of those and remove those that MLSP tells us are not used. So yeah, shortcut is a mask and a key. Same with all of these. They are sort of tied to one of our identifiers. So we're just going to make another table called shortcuts. What is this complaining about? Oh, I removed an S. There. There we go. And now we want to add another parsing rule here for shortcut. And we are going to do those as string, I think. So shortcut identifier dot shortcut. We're going to take that in as a string. And we're going to get our shortcuts. In this case, we actually want to store this, not shortcut. And now we need to do some checks on this. Actually, I don't think we want this to be a string. Let's add some of our sort of error checking logic into here. So we have, let's make a new rule called modifiers, which can either match control or shift, or should we do mod 4 or should we do super or meta? So should we do like useful names or proper names? I know, like, for example, i3 just calls it mod 4 for the super. And I mean, this has a kind of ambiguous name. It's like Windows or super or meta or... Anyone? No opinions? I'm gonna go with actual names. Unless one of you have any reason for me not to. At least then people won't be angry at me for using dumb names because I didn't choose them. That's the worst way of doing it, but at least it's consistent. Well, it's not consistent because I call this control instead of control, which is apparently the actual name. Yeah, that's fine. Do you have an opinion on this? Oh, because I told you guys you were silent. I'm getting used to that. Actually, I should get on Mumble again in case anyone actually wants to speak. So we have a Mumble Nimble channel where you can come by and say hello and actually talk on stream if you want. This NIM program that we're doing now, it is a program that shows notifications, is pretty much it. So it has a bunch of options that you can pass on the command line to show notifications. So if you don't build this, but actually just run it, it's pretty quick. And you can configure everything from the background with 9 patches, and you have stuff you can hover, and you have so this layout with like 2 images and some text, that is actually just defined in the stream.conf file. So this is the format of the notification. This means stacking this way. So we have 2 icons above each other. They're both 32 pixels in size. They have variable spacing top and bottom, which means that they are center spaced in their sort of box. Same for title and body. And then these are sort of fixed size spacings, which is controlled by a padding parameter, which isn't here. And all of that, these, because they are wrapped in normal parentheses, means that they are laid out this way. So images first, then the text, which is what we see here. Images first, and then text. How did I build a graphics interface for notifications? No, GTK would be way too slow for this, because as you can see, we want them to pop up as soon as we run this program. Bam. No delay. So it's built using X11 and imlib, which is one of the fastest text and graphics renderers for X. And in fact, you see the notifications that the chat, IRC chat thing that pops up here when you talk. That is also that is the same program. So I mentioned this in the beginning of the chat. It's basically just a script that runs this program with text. So those are my normal notifications. Well, some guy asked in the oh, awesome beard. Yeah, thanks. Right. Yay for Dvorak. You guys should talk in the actual chat. I can't keep track of 2 chats at the same time. Yeah, so this is the 49 lines of code. It just reads the IRC log from HexChat via tail, and then it basically just creates a configuration for the Notifishower program, and then just calls Notifishower to do the whole pop-ups thing. I didn't tune in too late. We're still gonna be going for quite a while, I guess. I mean, this is stream number 3 that I've been doing on this program, and the program was already working before I started streaming. So but yeah, modifiers, and we want a we already have a rule called shortcut. We should call this pattern, in lack of a better name, which contains 0 or more modifiers we don't want to force a modifier, really. So 0 or more modifiers separated by the plus character, but we can't have one that's only modifiers. So modifiers 0 or more followed by any character. So 1 is just one character. I guess we only want alphanumeric. No, actually we don't. Because you can do like Control Alt, like some weird character. So just any character is fine. This means that you are gonna be able to do like random ASCII characters that don't make sense because they don't exist on a keyboard, but that should be fine. Okay. This is gonna be a shortcut pattern. What is this actually complaining about? Has no type or is ambiguous because it's not in the hoverables table. It's in the shortcuts table. Oh, and we just copied the shortcuts table, so that is still a background as its type. That should fix this. Yes, good. Okay, so now we need to do the actual parsing. And we know from our shortcut pattern that all of the modifiers are going to come first, followed by a single character. Which means, and we need the single character at the end. Which means, and of course they're all split by pluses. That means that we can do our pattern is $2. I'm doing fine. Why did that show up there? And not in my... Oh, because he tagged me. Wait, did my notification thing stop working? Yes, it did. That's not good. Just try to restart this. Check if it works. Send a little message. Ah, there we go. Now it works. Not quite sure why it stopped working. Might have been like too many processes open or something. I don't know, but they do, when they time out, they quit. I'm not sure what that was. But yeah, I'm doing good. Writer fighter. I'm not sure. So people have different names on IRC and here and elsewhere. So I don't recognize a lot of your Twitch handles. So if I seem a little impersonal, it's only because I don't know who you are. Oh, you're Avatar Fighter. Hi. Yeah, so you want to split these on the plus character. So now we know that all but the very last one is our key symbol. So we can right off the bat. It is quite a huge peg. It is. I'm working on Notifishower, and basically what this peg is matching all of these options. Well, the green color is what I have set as the default for text in my code. But yeah, syntax highlighting in the Vim plugin isn't great. I really want to do syntax like the syntax. All of that was a peg. all of what was on screen there was a peg. This isn't a peg, but yeah, it parses all of these parameters and some more, and stores them in this type, or this set of types. So yeah, all of this is our peg. All of this down to here. But yeah, we know that our key symbol, or we can convert it to, no, we need keys. Could do with key code actually, because you never actually need the symbol. So X string to key sim, X, and I guess these are lowercase in to key sim. The last character or the last string in our pattern, and we want to convert that to a key code. X, what was that? Key sim to key code. But we need the display for that. Of course we need the display because you can have different key maps. So we're actually just gonna store the key symbol, I think, in options. Makes the code slightly cleaner. I think this is wrong. Are these capital in the binding? Got int literal, yeah. Splits, oh, we can actually split on a character. Might be slightly faster. Not that it matters terribly much, but and we can do our mask, which is also going to be an int, and then for each of the modifiers in the pattern, except for the last one. So that is all of them. This is all but one. Mask is going to be equal to mask or, and now we need to convert our mask here into the actual X mask. Control mask or shift, which is going to be shift mask, or lock, which is going to be our lock mask. Mod 1, which is lowercase in our case, is going to be mod 1 mask, and this is just going to be just repeated for all of these. Repeat these like that. Control Shift Lock mod 1 through 4. Control Shift Lock mod 1 through 5. Great. 37% raid. Well, we're not really raiding. Oh, and we need do the else for 0. So it will never actually run into this else case, because our modifier, because of this shortcut pattern that only matches those, we know that these will always be one of these. But just in case, nim needs you to cover all of the cases. It seems like the program stopped working again. I guess it might be like Unicode that messes it up. I mean, I wrote this and like, oh no, it didn't break. Okay. Cool. And that's the good thing about this. I can see it. So now I'm sure that I don't put anything behind the chat, because I can actually see the chat now. Because it's not just a OBS overlay. You're not raiding my stream. I'm just happy for the company. Well, that sounded sad. Right. So we actually don't need to store this key sim. We can store this directly in the shortcut. What was it? Shortcut.key. Yeah, shortcut.key, set it to that. And the same goes for mask. We can just do shortcut.mask. Oh yeah, more people who doesn't know what nim is. That's always fun. So yeah, this is nim. Might look a bit crazy and intimidating to begin with, but oh, so there is a type for keysim. It's not all just ints. There we go. I hope you've heard good things about it. I think a lot of people, it seems, at least in like the programming communities, like the smaller ones, have sort of, they've heard of nim, but they don't, they're afraid to try it out, which I think is silly. It's always fun to learn new programming languages, and nim is pretty good. It's like a fast, safe Python with some superpowers thrown in. So now I'm just removing my unused imports here, just to clean up a little bit. There we go. So now we have in our arguments, we have all of our keyboard shortcuts. We can see here that our event mask actually do include key press. So we will get those nice key presses. Yeah, the fact that you're able to compile everything into one executable is really nice. And that also didn't show up on the screen for some reason. I think they might, are they just because they're too long? What does this give me? Oh. Missing end quote. Ah, right, because, yeah, it doesn't run them as an actual like terminal program. So these aren't like string. They aren't like bash completed. But yeah, it's really nice that you can compile everything to one executable. I was actually looking at so we were talking about game programming earlier today, and I was looking at this, which is a game engine for NIM, one of the many, optimized for making cool games fast. And one of these is just like compile all C libraries statically to avoid dependency hell linker errors. So you get one executable, you can send that to a friend. He can just double click and run it without any installing, any unpacking, anything like that. Just nice that it just works. And also the cross compiling is really good. I've been doing for quite a while now for work, compiling a Windows DLL on my machine in NIM, and then so we compile a program that can run DLLs, and compiling the program is a massive pain in the ass that requires loads and loads of like pull this and run this make file and a config and bunch of crap. And then for the part of the NIM building is just like nimble build, copy the DLL into the correct folder, done. So that is, you get kind of spoiled. Yeah, NIM macros they're sort of one of the major features of NIM. An RPC library. Yeah. The fact like you can add pragmas to stuff, and then they just do more. It's so good. I did something similar for X events. So I have this X event loop. So you just like add X event pragma. So this should happen on key press, this should happen on key release, this should happen on client message, and then just run the event loop. Which just makes handling X events so much easier. I don't know why I haven't used it in this. I think it's because I have only like 3 or 4 events I have expose and motion notify on button release. I guess I should. A 1D barcode and printed. Oh yeah. That should be super easy. var keyword. Yeah. So you have in NIM you have the difference between var, which are variables. You can change the contents. You also have let, which are immutable, so you can't change them. And you also have const, which are compile time, non-changeable values, which are basically replaced by the NIM compiler every time you use them. So if you set a const to like 100, then it would just like insert the number 100 instead of doing any kind of variable stuff. Yeah. It's weird, like sometimes your messages don't show up. I don't quite know why. I'm gonna try a simple fix that might do it. Yes, I'm connected to the Twitch IRC. but I also set up this script to run to convert the messages to Notifishower messages. Well, which GUI kit kind of depends on what you need. Like, do you need it to run cross-platform? Do you need it to only run on one specific platform? Do you want direct control over buffers and stuff? Yeah, like how much control do you need over like direct stuff? There's also some that are specifically tailored for making GUIs for games. So like if you already have a an OpenGL context, yeah. I mean there is also like, if you don't want to do raw OpenGL, there are GUI libraries that just take a OpenGL context and can draw over whatever you're doing in there. Type in a box of numbers which NIM would render to a 1D barcode and provide options for user to press with. Yeah, the whole render to 1D barcode. So you need to be able to draw that buffer somehow, which might be more or less easy depending on framework. I really need to debug this because that didn't work at all. I'm not sure why that fails. Oh, you know what? It might actually be the length. There is a limit to how many characters can be in a command call. So it might be that when you type long messages, we overflow the length a command can be. Let's try to set the message length down to 3 and see if that makes it more stable. If it does, then that might be the issue. Yeah, NIM also compiles to JavaScript, so you could run it in the browser. But I think if you want to sort of learn NIM proper, I wouldn't start necessarily with browser stuff, because JavaScript NIM is a bit different from normal NIM, and it's not always obvious how. And you might run into some like slightly underdocumented parts of NIM. It's not necessarily more complex, it's just different. Right, so we have select inputs. Here we do button press. Okay, so here we also need to do our key press mask. And let's just input our code here. So for, we actually don't need the title, we only need the shortcut in args.shortcuts.values. So values is an iterator for a table that only gives us, well, the values. You can also run to get the key. So you can do like loop over the whole table and give you both the key and the value. Let's see. Oh no, that was not the one. This one. So yeah, grab key is what we want to run here. And for us, this is called disp, and this is our shortcut.key, and we have shortcut.modifiers. Grab window is, this is the root window, which we have been getting with, yeah, default root window. Default root window for the display. Owner events, pointer mode, and keyboard mode. Those are those false. Grab mode async. False, I think that will auto convert to an X, to the X thing. Grab mode async. This is nym. It's a pretty cool language. Compiles, this code compiles to C. Oh, you got your hopes up for Pimo? That is, I actually want to start. I want to start with that, my window manager. After this, I will probably stream that as well. This is probably the same error that we always get. Yes. Oops. That was not, in fact, what we wanted to open. And options. So in nym, when something returns something, you have to use it or discard it. You can't have like silently ignore a value. That's not allowed. There, okay. So now we should actually be getting these shortcuts. And in here we can do, yeah, unless it's, yeah. I actually used that trick in my doc-opt code. It returns a boolean, a discardable boolean, if it runs the procedure or not. Key press, I guess. Let key press be Windows .x key. No. Does this have a kind? Oh wait, I guess we are selecting on the kind. X11 events, next event, I guess, should bring me to that table. You use it for nym scripters, so you don't have to discard a invoke of a function that's void. Wait, what? if a function is void, then it doesn't return anything. Or am I missing what you're saying? X button event, X motion event, X key event. Right, X key event. Invoking them script functions with the return types means you cast the return value to the T of that proc. Oh, right. Yeah, for nym script. Right. Right. So if you're so if you're calling a nym script function that returns void, then you have a discardable something? Wait. Yeah. I mean, it will complain if you try to discard something that's not discardable. Right. You could have used auto, couldn't you? If it's a generic. And you use implicit return. I think that should work. Wait, the system doesn't know. How do you know then? Let's just call it key press, and this is just the X. Not X multiple. X key, I guess. Dot. Right, X key. When I get X key events. And an X key event have X and Y. I don't care about that. I have key code and should have key or button mask is in state, right? So let's just for now let's do echo key press dot key code. Is that what it was? Key code, yeah. Oh, and one more thing to make sure that this works. Yeah, this is now taking in a key sim, but as you remember, we need to convert this to a key code. Yeah, to a key code. Key sim. Wait, what was the name of that? Key sim to key code thing? Okay, key sim to key code. Easy enough. To key code for that key. And this takes the display, which is why we couldn't do it in the options parser, because then we would need to get the display in there. And this, just to see the whole error message, let's just try and compile it. Right. Expected one that just takes a bunch of ints, but that is a key code. So let's just convert that to a C integer, which is what that procedure expects. So now we don't have any keyboard shortcuts, and now you see I'm just typing text into there. But if we now add, I exited out of Vim before it was done, so my cursor was gone. If we now add a shortcut here, let's just call it Control-Shift-X. Wait, does that do anything? No. So Control-Shift-X. Now I should be able to hit Control-Shift-X. That didn't work. unless it is. Nope. Okay, so this doesn't grab it properly for some reason. Let's just double check that this actually runs. Just to check that it got added properly. Yes, it does. But it has 3 shortcuts, all of them with mask 0, key 0. That is obviously not what we wanted. And I think I know why. So in here, we do mget or put on shortcut, on our shortcut pattern. Wait, that is kind of strange. Got shortcut $2. So $2 again is this match here. This is a DSL for those of you not familiar with them. So it's like a syntax extension kind of thing. Got shortcut Control-Shift-X. Okay, that's good. That only runs once. Or should only run once, at least. Let us just do this. And let's just... another nice thing in them, so here we define shortcut to be of the kind shortcut, or the type shortcut. In nim, all types are defaulted to 0. So this will just be an empty shortcut. We don't have any of those weird like uninitialized memory bugs that you get in C. And we don't get any of those annoying uninitialized object errors that you get in typical object-oriented languages. And now we're just gonna say C equal to our shortcut here. So we're just setting it. If a shortcut existed, we remove it. Let's see what this gives us. Still the same thing, okay. But now it actually has. Now it actually seems to have set the mask and the key properly. So now this should work. That seemed to have done something. Terminal did get into a weird mode, but yes, it did. If I just am not in my terminal when I do that, we get 56. And 56 should be the key code. So as you see here, we here we output the shortcut, which is the keyboard symbol. So 120 is the keyboard symbol for X, but 56 is apparently the key code for X. And we can actually verify this by going to my my X mod map. What is that called? Oh god. I thought it was called like X mod map or something. Did I put this in config? I shouldn't have. Let's have a look in here in my there's the config there, colors. Wait, am I not setting? What does my... What does this say? No, not that one. X init RC. Oh. Wait, what? An X profile? No. Okay. Apparently I don't have an Xmod map thing on this machine. I usually do. Yeah, so that seems to work. We get the key. Now we need to match that key to a shortcut. In fact, this table could have been the other way around. That would make this easier. So we are gonna do that. We're actually gonna make the shortcut our key and the string our value. This is not gonna work there because we have defined it differently up here. So this is now a table that maps a shortcut to a string and not a string to a shortcut. This, yeah, that works. Why is it? What is it complaining about? Oops. It might be complaining that we don't have a hash function. Yeah. So we need a, since these are hash tables, we need a hash function for our shortcut. Probably because it doesn't understand key sim. So we can look in the hashes module. So this is how you hash something in nim. So we basically just, in order to be able to insert something into a table, there just needs to exist a function called hash from your type, the type you want to hash into an object hash. The object hash is comes of course from the hashes module. So the hash in our case should hash the mask and the key sim. The mask and our key sim is actually an int. So there. Yeah, perfect. So what I was waiting for was that gray bar on the side here to disappear, because that's where NimLSP shows you which line has an error on it. So when there's no bar, there's no error. Now, of course, we need to iterate this over keys instead of values. And for our key press here, we need to make a shortcut object where the mask is equal to av.xKey.state, I think it was called, and the key, this actually needs to get converted back. I'm not sure how easy that is to do. Wait, this one. X key sim to key code. So we need a key code to the other way. To obtain a key sim for the key code, use X lookup key sim of an event. Should be good. Of the actual X event. The express or extra release event specifies the index into keysym's list for the event's key code. Index into the keysym's list. From the list that corresponds to the key code member in the express enter. Do we have an example of this? I'm not quite sure I understand what this does. Yeah, it doesn't help that you just repeat each other. And why are all these just copies of themselves? Shifted keys. What? Look up keysym. But he doesn't pass a. Let's just go with 0 and see what happens. So we are gonna do X look up keysym because we want the symbol, and our event is ev. Echo out that shortcut for me, please. Undeclared identifier shortcut. That's because we don't expose the actual shortcut object itself. You can expose these as well. Not that we use them for anything, but they might be nice to have. Type mismatch. Got cuint. So cuint is a C unsigned integer, but expected a normal nim integer. No. No. There. So it was this line, but what we get here is so these are actually unsigned integers when they come from the system. I'm just going to do that. Got an X event. Oh, and 0. I'm not sure what that index is. We'll try with 0. If it doesn't work, then px key event. But it got an X event. Ooh, just an X event. Have the ladder, right? And it expects. So cast to a px key event. It's just the p here is old Pascal syntax. So this means a pointer to an x key event, and we then of course want to get this dot x key dot adder. Might not actually need the cast when I think about it. Nim should be able, Nim should be able to see that that is a pointer to an X key event. txcat. Okay, that compiled. If I now run my shortcut, it outputs mask 5, key 120. And as we remember from when we were parsing this, that is exactly what we want. which means that we should be able to echo out the args shortcuts and look it up by the shortcut, as long as we didn't. So enim to export, so I import the options module from the Notifishower module, and this star that I'm placing around is nim's export marker. So what I'm saying here is that export this hash function to whoever imports us. And the same I've done for all of these variables, like export all of these variables, so that in this code, I'm able to see it. Otherwise, this wouldn't be able to see the hash function, so it wouldn't be able to look it up, because it wouldn't know how to hash a shortcut. Okay, if I now again run the shortcut, it says title, which is great, because as you remember, we set title, the shortcut of title to be this. If we had set this to be icon, we can now hit the shortcut and we get icon. But of course we want the action. So the same here, when we click on something, we want to run the action for whatever we were hovering on. And the action of whatever we were hovering on is the action. Actions are stored in the actions table, if I don't remember incorrectly. Yep. args.hoverables. Get our default. Right. There. But we don't want get our default. We want if args.hoverables.hasKey. And we of course want to have let the element that we clicked on to be equal to this. If the table of hoverable things, so things that we can interact with, has the key element, then that means it has an action, which means that we should do this. So we want to write out that action to the terminal, and we know that we can find this in the hoverables table because we just checked that it has that key, and the hoverables has an action there. So now, so we assigned this shortcut to icon, Control-Shift-X. So if I now go just into a different window, hit Control-Shift-X. Okay, that didn't work. Because icon doesn't have an action assigned to it. Title has an action. So if we give a shortcut to title, and I go in here, I can hit Control-Shift-X, and now it prints out hello, which is the same that happens when I click on it. So now title has an action, which is hello, which is what it writes out to the terminal when that action is triggered. And it has a hover, so that means that it looks different when I hover over it, and it also has a shortcut, which I can use to trigger the same action. It also does something in my terminal, annoyingly. So I should change that. If I make it Control-Alt+X, for example. Oh, Alt wasn't one of them. Hoisted by my own petard. Let's see. What was this? Stupid table again. Alt mod 1. Mod 1. There. So Control Alt X closes the notification with the action that I specified. I also want to, since we have a default action, or we can set a default action. Now I'm just setting the default action to background. So if I now click on the background, I'll just write out the word background. So I of course also want to have a way of setting a shortcut for the background action. So if I have control mod 1 plus B for background, this of course fails because this doesn't match our pattern. And the reason why is because we didn't add that in here. So we want a default action. We also want a default shortcut to be a shortcut object. And we want our shortcut rule down here. This should take an identifier followed by a dot. I'm going to remove the dot from there. So this is the same kind of thing we've been doing over and over. This of course should be 0 or 1 of those. And we're basically going to do the same thing here. If the capture length is 2, so because I place this is in npeg is the capture operator. So here I capture this identifier and I capture this shortcut pattern. So this will be capture 0, this will be capture 1, or this will be capture 1, this will be capture 2, because capture 0 is the whole thing. But since this is conditional, I can now either have 1 capture from here, or 2 captures, because I always have 1 capture, which is the whole thing. Or I can have 2 captures, or I can have 3 captures. So if I have 2 captures, then I want to set the default shortcut to the shortcut I just created. Otherwise, I want to set the specific shortcut for this thing. There we go. Now, of course, we need to register the default shortcut, which we do up here. And we're just going to say if arguments default shortcut dot mask is not equal to 0, and the arguments default shortcut dot key dot end is not equal to 0. So here, since this is a key sim, I just convert this back to an integer. In this case, if we never set this, these two will both just be 0 because the memory was 0, and 0 of an integer is 0. Then we are gonna need to replace these with default shortcut and the default shortcut mask. So this basically just says if the mask is not 0 and the key is not 0, then run this. This is of course the same error that we always get when I add something in here. It's just a Vim LSB error, which I should fix. And I've been saying that for a while now. Yeah, gotta catch them all. Nice Pokemon reference there. Oh, this is of course arguments. And again, arguments. It's crazy how those things stick. Like just you mentioning gotta catch them all. Now I have the Pokemon theme song playing in my head. Oh, program failed. Index 2, not a 001. So we have an index error or index defect here. That is from line 29. That is probably the call to parse. So 339. Oh, that is the actual matching from inside MPEG, which is from 279 in our code. Ah, yes, okay. So when we only have one match, this 2 doesn't exist, of course. So we want our shortcut pattern to be equal to, and this is how you do ternaries in NIM. You just type an inline if statement. If capture length equals 2, then $1, otherwise $2. And here we want to split our shortcut pattern. So a lot of things in NIM. So we don't have a special ternary thing. If just always returns a block. So since this is a value, and as I mentioned earlier, you have to discard values if you don't plan on using them. So this value here, I don't use, but since we have this else clause and another value, then this thing will always, it has a string for both branches. So this whole if statement will return a string, and I assign this string to this. It's the same thing that I do here. So here I have a case block, and this case block has all its branches covered because of this, and it always returns a number. So this entire case block will return a number. So this can get ORed with this number. It's a nice little thing in NIM. Another cool thing is that we have blocks. So here, for example, I have var let, but I can do this instead. So now I have, this is now a let block. So I can assign two things in the same block. And I did want to actually do that here as well. Where was that? Here it was. I want to do this. But I never use this, do I? No. There we go. Now this should work. There we go. So now I should be able to hit Control-Alt-B to run the background action. Oh, that crashed. Oh, right. Yeah, in keypress, we just check if Hoverballs has this key. Oh no, sorry, here. And we look up the element in here. We actually want to do in here, I think, no, we want to do this. If args.shortcuts.hasKey shortcut, then we want to do all of this stuff, and this needs to be a let, so we actually didn't need to make that into a let block. And do the same if args.default default shortcut is equal to the shortcut, then we and arguments dot default action dot length is not equal to 0. So we check that the background actually has an action before we try to do it. So now we can assign shortcuts to stuff that doesn't do anything. Oops. And that will obviously not. So if we assign this shortcut control plus mod 1 plus b without having this action, hitting this shortcut wouldn't actually do anything. No, that was a mistake. It's not. So now we can do Control Alt P runs the background action, and Control Alt X runs the title action. And the title action is hello. Great. So now you can have keyboard shortcuts with actions assigned to them. Now, what I was doing there, Beef, was I was planning on either doing that, but I preferred to do this, and that was a weird mix of both of them. Sorry for bumping the mic. Right. So that is actions. I have now been streaming for 2.5 hours. And I wanted to do something more. I wanted to do the icons for Notifishower. But I don't think I have time for that today. So I think that's gonna be next stream. But yeah, this is coming together here. It's this is shaping up to be something cool. It is already pretty cool, but it's shaping up to be even cooler. Because what this basically does is it allows you to write your own small programs, like the one I wrote for this stream, this thing, which is, as I said, it's just a small, like 50 lines of code, reads from one thing and just turns it into notifications. And this one is pretty simple. It's just, yeah, I know I'm using temp again. I'm always using temp. For those of you who didn't get that, temp on Linux, everything in there, it lives in RAM. So if I now turn off my computer, everything in the temp folder is gone. And I had been working on a project for something like 2 or 3 days, and turned off my computer by accident. And then I remembered that all of my hard work was stored in temp, which you should never do. Don't store more than you're willing to lose in temp. But I'm willing to lose this. It's 50 lines of code, and it is quite buggy, I've noticed. So it wouldn't be the worst to lose that. But I am going to copy it. In fact, let us make an examples folder in Notifishower, and let's copy this into here along with the conf file. But since I'm going mad that it is labeled so horrible, so yeah, now we have this in here. Happy now. So now this will actually ship as an example of what you can do with this. I might change these paths to be relative and probably not always log my Twitch channel, but rather like the NIM main channel or something like that. This of course also needs to be with an S now. Oops. But yeah, since these always run as single notifications, it doesn't, like, the program can crash, doesn't matter. Like the notifications can crash. In fact, before I implemented the timeout feature, the way I was intending to kill them was like this. Like, yeah, just. Why doesn't that say that there are no more to kill? Are there any running? There isn't a lot of instances running. Maybe that's why it hangs. RAM usage, 9 gigs. Yeah, OBS takes a fair chunk. Firefox with my 275 open tabs. It's mostly Firefox, to be honest. Oh, this is what you want to create in NIM. Let's see, open that in my other window. Let's just stop that. Here. So this is what you want to create in NIM. Text box, numbers, user types, and a few numbers there. Create a barcode button, a rendered 1D barcode, and a print, and save in PDF or PNG. Yeah. I mean, the to run on Windows. Probably the easiest way to create the the vnim. Yeah, this is probably the easiest way to create a GUI for Windows. Should be pretty simple. It seems it also supports some kind of like image thing. I'm not sure. How do you plan on generating the barcodes? Do you have a separate program for that, or is that something you want NIM to do as well? Yeah, if possible. Of course it's possible. Anything is possible. Yeah, I'm not sure if NIM has a library for it. Go away. Nimble.directory. You can see NIM barcode library. Not sure what this does. It appears to be able to generate a bunch of different barcodes. Yeah. Bar array. I don't know much about barcodes, to be honest, but this seems to be something like what you need. Create a bar array, which is, yeah, I guess, sequence of bars, and a bar says on or off, I guess, within a height, vertical position. So with this, to create the actual barcode, and then something to render, like rendering that to, wait, maybe it had rendering. So if you don't know, this is nimble.directory is the package directory site for nim. So to install any of these packages, you just do nimble install barcode, for example. That installs this package. Yes. Examples. Barcode. Oh, set background. Ah, okay, so it can actually draw them as well, it seems. In vnim, actually. So this is probably like 99% of what you need. Creates a window, gives it a frame, barcode example, generate a barcode of a specific kind, here's a static bitmap. Actually, for fun, let's try to do this here, shall we? Why not? Just to show everyone how cool nim actually is. I know. What does it matter if I'm on Linux? That never stopped me before. So let's have a poke at the example here. Oh, let's do this so you can actually see what I'm doing. Actually, let's move. Yeah, that is what I'm gonna do. Barcode. Okay, so oh, for fuck's sakes. Let's install the barcode library and then the vnim library. Okay. And since I need to cross compile this, I need to be using wow. I need to use mingv to compile this, which I should be able to do pretty easily if I can just find the command for it. Let's see. So nim c --os Windows. Let's not do the release and all of that stuff. B code, but I probably am gonna need. Yes, I'm probably gonna need. So I'm gonna copy in. I'm gonna do it the other way around, so that you can't see the file structure of my work project here. Since I've done this for work, I have this lying around. So I just copied in a configuration file here. We don't need any of this stuff. Yeah, sure, we can just do that. I don't need this. I don't think we need this, but it couldn't hurt. Have you heard of wine? Let's see. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay. .cfg should have used that file. Yeah, I know. Yeah, but again, I can use Wine to run it. Let's move this to... Isn't that how those goes? Apparently not. Oh, sorry. That's okay. Wait, do I even have MinGV installed? Yes, I do. Okay. I usually build these in a Docker container because some poor guy at work also needs to be able to build them for deployment. I mean, that should have been everything. Maybe I need to specify the architecture. Yeah, vnim is for Windows only. There we go. Need to specify the architecture. There. Okay, so now we should be able to run barcode.exe. Could not load pcre64.dll. So I'm missing the regex thing. That is something that ships with nim. Let's see. It should ship in the nim in this thing. Pretty sure. PCRE. Wait, which one was it? PCRE64. So extract this into temp barcode / examples. Examples, yeah. Don't extract with full path. There we go. Boom. So apparently, well, wait, was this all that was there? Yeah, it was. Okay. So yeah, that's how you cross compile nim code to Windows and run it in Wine on a Linux machine. Easy as that. So yeah, this is generating a barcode. Some odd barcode format I've never seen before. But it is a barcode. Whoops, what was that? So if we look at if we have a look at vnim here, so we have an app, we have a frame. Let's should we try to add a button? How do you think we do that? Vote, yeah. I'm guessing that's another emoticon. It's a button with yeah on it. Let's see. Print preview. Wait, you want to print stuff, right? This might be what you need. Come on, isn't there a simple thing with just like a button? Hello world, that looks too basic. Come on. Ah, so much stuff. Yeah, so it has this auto layout thing, which is actually kind of similar to the one that I use in the notification thing. It's a extended VFL. Are any of these easier? No. Okay, here, creates a button. Well, he just appends them. That's boring. Subclass and toolbar. This is a bunch of complicated stuff. I want something simple. Oh wow, that's a lot of stuff. I want radio buttons. Demo. Ah, this looks good. This looks nice. Okay. Complicated auto layout. God damn it. But yeah, so this is barcode. Why wouldn't it run on your Linux? It runs on mine, under Wine. Cross-compiled. So basically, all this file says is that if you are on the Windows platform, and this is the old config format, you should really use the new one, the NIMS format, NIM script. If you're on a Windows machine, pass this like static stuff, switch the compiler to MinGV compiler, switch the linker to the MinGV linker. And again, this is the stuff I use for work, so it has like cases for both 32 and 64-bit, and had a bunch of other stuff in there as well. But I stripped it down a bit. And then you just say OS Windows and D Arch 64, and that chooses this and this and this. So that sets the CPU and the stuff like that. And that compiles us a Windows build, and to run Windows executables on a Linux machine, you just use Wine. And that's the magic of NIM. This is a Windows program written in 45 lines of code. Actually, 44 lines of code. Should remove the superfluous new line at the beginning. And you could remove more of these lines. Some extra white space. This doesn't have to be there. I mean, most of the white space here doesn't have to be there, but yeah, 42 lines of code. BMP barcode, static bitmap. Ooh, what this is actually. That's a V static bitmap. Oh right, so I don't use it, but it's a child of the panel, or something like that. And the bitmap is a bitmap of the image. What is this? What? Yeah, I was trying to look into like what is this image, for example. Is this any? It's a V image. Okay, so this is all. Wait, does the barcode? Does the barcode library? Oh, the code to generate the barcode and write that into a vnim thing was this code that was right here. I didn't even realize. I assumed this had to be much more code, so I just blanked over this and assumed it was vnim boilerplate. But yeah, so this is actually all the drawing code for the whole thing. I wonder if vnim has an easy way of saving bitmaps. GUI programs are always complex. They're a mess. Always have been. Yeah, I mean, there are alternatives that make stuff easier, but in general, GUI is a mess. Fidget, that's one of those web tech thing, isn't it? Like fancy, modern, whatever. I use VXNim for my GUI needs with my GenUI macro. Figma is. Oh. Right. That is one of my other massive projects. Make a non-sucky GUI library. I got close, or I got somewhere. I had a GUI library that could output both HTML and GTK code from very simple inputs. I should look into that more sometime. I have a lot of ideas for that. Wait, what? Oh, there's an HTML. Wait, am I in the documents folder? Yeah. This is where I want to be. Which distro are you using? Are you running? What is... I just hear my fan keeps ramping up. What is even... I mean, OBS, yeah, sure. Firefox. Pulse Audio, why does that do so much? Mumble, huh? Okay, there's nothing in particular, I guess. It's just general hardware strain. Oh, nim scripter and fidget. That's a cool combination. Yeah, that was 5 minutes on how to run, or more than 5 minutes, but how to compile and run cross-compile nim. Just as a side dish to what we were doing. But yeah, Notifishower is getting there. Now it has keyboard shortcuts. Lots of cool stuff. The thing that's been going on the top of the screen during the whole stream, made with Notifishower. Now it supports actions and keyboard shortcuts and 9 patches for everything. So you can, like, this is a 9 patch image, this hover thing. It says keyboard shortcuts. It's getting pretty solid. I think next step for Notifishower would be to just create some cool examples, create some good looking notifications. Yeah. Scripting language for configurations would be nice. I mean, I do like, so this is more of a like general purpose program. I do like the whole, like, I can run this from a script, right? I can put my default config in a config file, and I can just pass in my data over the command line. That's basically the idea here. It's the same idea I use for this program. I have my config files for it stored here. Of course, this is the data for it as well. But I have, for example, this system. So this defines how it looks. And then when I run it, I just specify run it with this config file and this data, go. This is I don't have that here. Yeah. So it's, I like those kind of programs. Like, you run the program, when it's done, like, you close the program, it's done. It doesn't do anything. There's no scaffolding, no extra logic, no madness. Just simple bits and pieces that you can tie together and do whatever you want with. Which is the idea here. That is actually, so, okay. This is my idea. So I kind of want to keep streaming because I think it's kind of fun. And I think it's a good way of showing off Nim. And it's a good way for me to sort of set goals for what I want to do with my coding and to sort of get stuff done. Yeah. I've looked into config file formats. They all suck for some reason. That's why I want to use NimScript, because with NimScript you can make your own DSL. And yeah. So my idea here now is finish Notifishower, which is getting close. Finish Notificatcher. No, Toml is also, I mean, Toml is nice for simple stuff. But you quickly run into the area where your stuff isn't so simple anymore and you need something special. And then you might reach for YAML, and YAML is horrible for simple stuff. And it's complex no matter what you want to write in YAML, because as Juan Carlos says, you have 64 ways to write a multi-line string. And the syntax isn't intuitive. It's just a mess. JSON, super readable. Everyone knows it, so it's fine. But it's kind of a pain in the ass to write. Like, I wouldn't want to write my configuration files in JSON. Same reason I don't want to write my configuration files in XML. I'm sorry, Microsoft. No comments. I think comments were added in Toml, weren't they? In the newer versions. I'm pretty sure they were. Yeah. Oh, in JSON. Yeah. Yeah, no comments in JSON. Horrible as a configuration format. Yeah, but no one uses those. I mean, Nim doesn't even have a parser for those. as far as I know. And I mean, programs ends up doing this, like writing their own. And so, for example, i3, my i3 config looks, my i3 config looks like this, which kind of readable, but also kind of a mess. And it doesn't look like any of my other config files. Let's have a look at some more. Conky maybe, no, Dunst. So this is sort of a TOML-esque thing, but without string literals, I guess. Oh wait, do you need string? You do, right? Yeah. So this is just kind of TOML without string literals. For better or for worse. Probably the latter. You have stuff like what more kind of horrible stuff like this do you have? I can't even remember them. All the names of these things. I don't know, calculator has a format. Yeah, this is also some kind of ini TOML style thing. Key value. I mean, most things needs key values. That's like 99% of what you need is a key value store of some kind. Which is why I personally like command line arguments. Key value. Make it easy. And I mentioned this, like I have this config file format for Notifishower that looks like this, but it's actually cheating because it's just a string conversion into config into this format, and then it's passed through the same parser. But that's one thing I want to do with PMO. And the first thing. So back to what I was saying, I want to keep doing the streams. I'm now gonna finish Notifishower. I'm gonna finish Notificatcher. This isn't in the Notificatcher folder anymore. I'm gonna finish Notificatcher. Really, the only thing I want to add to Notificatcher at the moment that I can think of off the top of my head is an images folder argument and better handling of icons and also the hints icons thing. So I want to sort of finish this, and then I'm going to start working on PMO. So for those who don't know, PMO is my window manager idea that I'm going to be writing in Nim. It's going to be very modular to the point where parts of what you would normally consider your window manager, not even your desktop environment, but your window manager, is going to be separate programs. The first thing I'm going to run, and I'm going to write, and I've started working on this. Do I not have a copy of it here? I think it might be in here. Yeah. Is PMO configurator. What PMO configurator is basically the solution to the configuration mess. A lot of display managers like GNOME and KDE have their own things for this, but they write all their own programs, and they all share the same config system. I want to do it the other way around, so I'm writing Pimo configurator to be a configuration program that creates configurations. So you write your configurations in NimScript with a DSL, and then you have a conversion layer from that to whatever program config format you want to use, and it converts it for you automatically. And that might just sound like an extra step to get all configs as one format, and then otherwise it's just extra steps. But it has some cool side effects, like you can globally declare colors, for example. That is one thing I've noticed when I was setting up my VM and sort of set up my distro to look the same across applications, is that I need to copy a lot of color codes around. I need to define the same font across multiple applications. So if I want to change sort of one of my system fonts, because I don't have a system font concept in across all the programs I use, I need to go and set it in like 100 different places. The same for colors. Like you can see, for example, this blue color here is the same as the blue color I have down here. And it's the same blue color that has been in the dunce notifications that have been popping up. It's also the same blue color that's down here. It's, yeah. But to get that to work, and the red color that shows up in my editor from time to time, on the few occasions that I make a bug, or for example, this red color, is the same red color as this. And setting all that up is a massive pain in the ass because you need to do it across a bunch of programs. So that's one thing that Pimo configure is going to do. It's going to let you define those globally. It is also, since it is after all the scripting language, you will be able to do inline callbacks. So the way it's going to do that, it's going to write out the config file with a, like, call this program with a hook back into the configuration system. So it's going to be able, you're going to be able to do callbacks within your configuration, which means that you don't need to have a bunch of bash scripts like I have in this folder. Just have a bunch of bash scripts that just do different kinds of stuff, and some of them more complex than others. And also in my i3 folder, to set up some of the stuff I need for i3. Set up some of the stuff I need for i3. I have like a config file. I have a config file for Conky that pipes it through a colorizer, and that's called by a wrapper. And I have some programs that's and sound. Yeah, all of this stuff can just be handled within the configuration system. And Pimo configurator is the first thing. That's the program you're going to launch when you start Pimo, and it is going to, in your configuration, you are going to have it configured to start the rest of the system. But it is going to be a standalone program, so you can use it in whatever environment you have. And that is sort of the first piece of the puzzle. After that comes the probably comes the main sort of window, what will register as the window manager, because that is, there can only be one window manager in an X display. And it's gonna be talking to some other programs to decide on the layout and to move stuff around, and yeah. And a lot of these programs are going to be separate things. But that is what I'm going to be doing after I'm done with the Notificatcher and Notifishower. And Notificatcher and Notifishower are going to ship with the default version of Pimo. Yeah, this I think is an old document, but the configurator, we're gonna have the base, which is the it has the responsibility to create workspaces and identify windows. I'm not sure about create workspaces, but identify windows, yes. Reparenter, so frames for Windows, is going to be a separate program. I will also try to make the reparenter work on, for example, i3. So one idea I have is, of course, 9 patches. So you could put 9 patches frames on your Windows. Layouter, so workspaces have layers and layers have layouters. So you can write your own layouting algorithm as a simple standalone program. You don't have to re-implement your entire VM every time you want to try out a new layout, which is kind of why I wanted to write Pimo in the first place. Animator, I think that is going to be part of the compositor. So I'm going to write a small compositor for this as well. And of course, interfacer, which is going to be basically, I'm not entirely sure if interfacer and configurator might be the same program. But interfacer is basically shortcuts, global shortcuts. That's one program is all it's going to do. Just handle shortcuts. Mouse, keyboard. It can run anything, can change your configuration, it can do a bunch of crazy stuff. Or not so crazy, but it can interface. It's the interface between you and the machine. That's all it does. Yeah. That's my crazy idea for my window manager. I mean, in the end, with all of this, like when I write Pimo, and with Notificatcher and Notifishower, you have pretty much all you need for a desktop environment. I have also been playing around with CEF, Chromium Embedded Framework, to make my own browser. Yeah, Nimdo. It's actually a shame that I haven't installed Nimdo on this machine. I do plan on doing it. I just haven't gotten to it. But Nimdo is a fantastic window manager written in Nim. It works great. I use it at work, but now everyone here is forced into working from home for the time being. But it works fine. I really like it, but I want more, and I want more configurability. Mo, I guess you're not talking about slang. This thing? Oh. Command line based editor inspired by VVim, written in Nim. Ooh, this is interesting. And funny what? A funny animation editor. Oh no, LSP's board. How can he expect us to use it then? It has syntax highlighting though, for a surprising amount of languages, considering. It has syntax highlighting, but not for its own configuration file format. It has syntax highlighting for YAML, but not for toml, which is its configuration file. That's interesting. Simple file manager. It actually looks pretty good. VS Code themes? Wait, it loads VS Code? Highlight current words. Macros. You should write, wait, window management? That seems to be overstepping for a text editor. Yeah. Actually, at the moment, it's not much. I mean, the thing when I say I want more, it's not. I don't have specific features in mind. I do want. I have my idea of layouting algorithm for Windows, because I really don't like the way tiling window managers work. I mean, I really love the idea of not overlapping windows and actually be able to find stuff and not having to use the mouse. But there are certain things that really irks me about them, which I'm gonna fix with Pimo. I already have the algorithm for layouting of the windows, but I haven't found any window manager that's easy to configure to add your custom algorithms. So that's why I'm writing my own. By the way, Prestige, I assume you're watching since you commented. You should have a screenshot with colors for your bar. I added that feature for him. But yeah, no, Nimdo is great. But it doesn't have the level of configurability that I need to finally be at home. And you use toml, right, for the configuration format? That's no fun. We gotta do better than that. Full on craziness. But yeah, I think I'm gonna call it for the stream today. I'm gonna throw in some comments and stuff for Notifishower. I'm gonna fix the help message to actually reflect what we have at the moment, and I'm gonna push this to GitHub if you guys want to play around with it. And if you play around with it, and if you make some cool configurations and wait, what? Admin script configuration. Yeah. Oh, I'll do that soonish was a comment to Elegant Beef, not. Oh no, that was to me, right. Yeah. Radio settings. What? But yeah, it adds about 5 megabytes to the binary, and then whatever parts of the standard library you want. And I think that's like 20 megabytes. I wrote about this. Creating condensed shared libraries. What we need, the standard library adds another, right, so compiling NimScript support adds 3 megabytes. Standard library adds another 5 megabytes. but it's only 1.2 megabytes zipped. So you could zip it and include it and then extract it on runtime if you want. But you can I go into some detail on how to bring that down further. Right. Yeah, so I'm just gonna type up this and I'm gonna push it to GitHub if you guys want to play around with it. If you do play around with it and create some cool configurations, some cool notifications, please let me know. And if you end up writing some programs like the one that I wrote, like this thing, please share those as well, so I have some nice examples. But yeah, I think that's all from me today. Let's bring the badger back before signing off. Nice friendly badger. But yeah. I should have an outro image. I don't have that. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining me. Hopefully be streaming again soon. Not tomorrow, but maybe the day after. So Friday or during the weekend. Hopefully. Okay, see ya guys.